This thread will be about standard written English. What is standard written English? Who speaks it? Where does it come from? What are the benefits of having standards in general? And who do they privilege? These are all things I want you to think about and write about in your 4 to 6 sentence post. It can be longer, but it should be that at a minimum. Standard written English is what you'll be using for most of your college papers. And this thread, I want you to use one of the short video clips throughout this presentation as an example to talk about whatever question, or it doesn't have to answer a question. It can actually just be your response to the video in general, but use one of the examples. And while you watch these videos, I want you to think about, different dialects of English, and can you write the way you talk? And do we judge people's intelligence by the way they talk, by the way they write, and by how well they meet the standards? Is this a problem? Is there benefits to writing in a dialect? These are all things that I think are important for us to think about when discussing standard written English. I once had a teacher who actually accused me of plagiarism. He looked at me, I came into the class, he said, "You didn't write that paper." It was right in front of everyone as well. And I said, "My gosh, why would you think I didn't write the paper?" He said, "The girl that comes in here and sits here and talks in my class is not the person that wrote that paper." It was extremely insulting. I was a journalist at the time, writing a lot, and this person seemingly thought that I couldn't write well because I didn't talk well, maybe, according to him. So, you can always write different than you talk. And there's nothing wrong with the way we talk in Hawaii or the way you talk wherever you came from. Actually, there is a lot of really great knowledge in the way we all talk. It says something about our past and where we came from. When I want to write a formal paper or a paper using, standard written English, I often sort of try to think of myself like a newscaster. How would they speak? Because they speak very directly and very formally and very objectively. Of course, this may change according to your own audience and according to what you're writing about. But it's always something to keep in mind. So you can think about that. You can hear somebody talking that you want to write like, and use that. So anyways, I hope this helps as you guys start your first papers, really. So I look forward to your post and your upcoming papers. I want you to think about these things. You can have a free write, or you can just sort of answer the questions in your head. How many languages do you speak? Considering that standard written English might not include a dialect or a Creole like Pidgin English that we speak here in Hawaii. What about if you do a sport, or let's say you surf, or you're into the car community? You have a special language that you use in that community that people that are not a part of it may not know what you're talking about. Is there any value in writing in these other forms of English that are not standard? Is there any value in perpetuating standard written English? These are all things we should think about. For many of us, standard written English might be kind of like a second language. So, where does it come from? Well, it's called English. So, it might be, from the English. So we're going to watch some British comedy. And while we're going through these videos, I want you to think about your post, but also think about, could you just write the way these people talk in your paper and turn it in without much, revising or editing, compared to if you were to write it in your own voice. I want you to take a look at these examples of Old English and Middle English and see if you can figure out what they are saying. Okay, I'll give you a hint. Fader, yeah. Heffelin. Let's try the Middle English. Our fader, that art in Heowins, Hallowed, be thy name. T, kingdom come. To, you guys know what it is now? Yeah, it's the Lord's Prayer. So these are older forms of English. Maybe at one time they were considered standards that we no longer use. We do have new dialects of English, however, such as, a Southern or an Appalachian English. We have different versions of African American styles of English, which you saw in that last video. Here in Hawaii, we do have our own form of Pidgin English. And we actually have a whole center where you can go and study Pidgin dialect and write. You write in Pidgin. So this is a really great, center. So you need to think about, what the benefit would be in writing in Pidgin. And I want you to think about, number one, if you wrote in Pidgin, would everybody be able to understand what you're writing? So is our knowledge or standard of written English a reflection of our intelligence? So should our SATs be so heavily influenced by our knowledge of standard written English and vocabulary? What about our writing? Should we always have to write in the standard English? And how does it privilege particular groups? Some people, such as people who grow up in Britain, can simply write how they talk, where almost everybody else, every American, at different levels, cannot. So we are actually having to learn a second language. The benefit, of course, is that we can all read it and know what it's saying. So my question, though, is about the word pal. It's a three-letter word. So do you think that British students could put the word pal in context in an SAT test? I don't think they could. They don't know how the word pal is used. But you see how it doesn't, there's no reversal. And, does their ability to do this or not reflect their intelligence? So, why don't they ask British students to define pal on an SAT test? Finally, our rules for editing. So, this is just to think about as you start writing your first real paper, about your first resource. Make sure you're writing with clear, concise sentences, clear, concise arguments. Use the Grammarly for your grammar, and try to follow the standard written English, which Grammarly will actually help you with. and also use the academic formatting. So I look forward to your post and your upcoming papers. Aloha.